Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. We're out in the kitchen. We have contrived lighting because obviously bright light comes in the window. Everything is just a silhouette on camera, that's just the way it goes. I can play with it electronically, but by putting that bright light on there and main light on, although that's not very bright, I don't need a bright light in the kitchen, do I? The bright light for cooking, there's a cooker light, you know, so anyway, that's the light, that's as it is. I think that's bright enough if we were looking at the plants over here. So what are we looking at then? We're looking at my Phalaenopsis. Now there aren't many, some are mini phals and some are not. One of them doesn't actually belong to me, it belongs to Hannah. When she took hers home and cleared my shelves off quite a bit and reduced my workload quite a bit, which was nice. The one she left behind wasn't doing very well, it was quite limp, and she said, could I leave that here with you? Basically her flat where she lives gets incredibly hot and she's out, you know, she works from, you know, sort of 4 o'clock in the morning till lunchtime, so she's not there to play with windows and stuff. So yeah, so I kept one behind, so I've got 8 altogether, including that one of Hannah's. Now I water them out here. I'm not carrying them all into the grow room, so I bring the watering stuff out here. I'll swing the camera around so that you can see what's going on. Help if I could see what's going on. Something like that. So I bring the watering bowl out here. I don't need a huge amount of water because they're all in medium bark, which is sort of medium stroke large, with nothing added basically, so the water goes straight through. So I don't need a lot. You know, each pot doesn't hold a lot of water, even though it gets an absolute soaking. But in this weather, I mean, currently in this kitchen it's 24 degrees and it's not even 9:30 in the morning yet. That's the sort of temperature I'd normally get in the evening when I'm cooking a big meal. So obviously the fowls are loving it because they like the higher temperatures. They'd like it higher still. But what they do miss with that temperature is humidity. And the humidity in the house is not bad, but they would prefer it higher. But there's nothing I can do about that. I'm not having a humidifier in the kitchen. Not after the hassle we had with the gas, which you may have seen on a different video. Right, so we'll have a look at each one. Most of them are just hybrids, they don't have names, although Hannah's does. So this one, endearingly known Mini Phal D. That's so that in my notes I've got some notes on the colour of the blooms, yeah? I'm not messing about with pop-ups or anything yet, we'll deal with the blooms as and when we get some. 4 leaves, relatively recent leaf that's in good condition, and we have a good root system on this one, including some active root tips growing around the bottom of the pot and some more heading that way. It's funny, they're all going that way, now they're going the other way. That's probably because I twisted the plant when I repotted it to get the roots to turn in the pot so that they didn't break. And at the moment I see no bugs, which are good. And then for those of you who are interested, this is for my Phalaenopsis, a medium to high feed. This is a TDS of 415 for those interested in such details. And as I said, I can pour 5 litres of water through this pot and I'll get practically 5 litres out the bottom. But they get a good soak, they get an absolute soaking. Now I used to put the plants out, I used to clear the whole shelf off when I had loads and loads, but I don't need to do that anymore. I can just take one plant off at a time and put it straight back where I got it from, which helps me, sort of speeds up the work a bit. Right, this is Phalaenopsis split, so this is not a mini phal, this is quite a large plant. Came from Burnham's originally. Did it come from Burnham's? Yes, but I think it came from Burnham's at an external show, not at their nursery. It's growing okay. It hasn't got an extensive root system, but it does have some active roots, so we have got, you know, roots growing. And it's not a bad root system. It's not bad. I wouldn't say it's brilliant for the size of the plant. The last leaf it grew bigger than anything before, and it now has another new one. And we have a bug down in the crevice of that leaf, so we have our handy alcohol spray, which is the fastest thing to deal with mini. Oh, and we have, I'll show you that one. That's what a large mealybug looks like. On the end of my thumb. Yeah? So they can get quite big, but that's a fully grown adult. Sorry, was. No, it is. They don't last long. Not when I'm around. As I've always said with bugs, if you can see it, squash it, kill it. Don't mess about. Don't say, oh, I'll get that next time, because next time there might be 10 of them. Do it while you see them. And that's what I do with these out here. I doubt if I'll ever completely get rid of the mealybugs out here. The main reason is my systemic insecticide doesn't work that well on Phalaenopsis. I'll tell you why. I was just going to say, you want to know why? I'll tell you why. The Phalaenopsis leaves, orchid leaves have ports, tiny little holes that allow the transfer of liquid in and out and gases in and out. That's how they do the carbon dioxide and the oxygen thing, and one at night and one in the day. But they also transpire, you know, the water goes up through the plant, transpires out of those things, but they haven't got many. And the problem is they're very leathery, so if you spray that with an insecticide, a lot of it evaporates and dries before it's actually soaked into the plant, and that's the problem with systemics and Phalaenopsis. They don't absorb it very well, so it doesn't really do the job as well as it says it should on the tin, which is a shame, but that's how it is. Oh, and we've got the biggie. This is the monster. So you know, straight away I can see an adult mealybug there, 3 down the centre of that leaf. So I'm looking at the surface of the plant at the moment. I always do it in 2 stages. I look at the tops of the leaves, and then when I've done that I hold it up in the air and look at the bottom. And there are several on the new leaf coming. You do have to go a little bit careful with the alcohol on brand shiny new leaves, because they are quite sensitive. Now this has a rock on it to stop it falling over. This came from my son. It's his first attempt at an orchid, and he kept it in a glass jar. It was in a tiny little pot when he got it, and he didn't have a proper flower pot. He thought, oh, we'll put it in a glass jar, because I explained about the roots changing colour when they need watering and that, and that went, you know, that sunk home. So he basically thought, oh, I know, I'll put it in a glass jar, then I can see the roots. But no way of the water getting out. You know, if you filled it up with water, it stayed there. And that's how he used to water it. He used to fill the jar up with water, leave it to soak for half an hour, and then tip the excess out. And this stayed in that glass jar for over 5 years before he gave it to me. He gave it to me because he was moving into the camper van home that they've got, motorhome thing, and obviously it wasn't suitable for plants. So yeah, he gave it to me, and we had to smash the glass with a hammer to get the plant out to be able to repot it. It's got an extensive root system, and including a lot of roots on the outside. What have we actually got here? 2, 4, 6, 8 full-size leaves, and a new one coming. The last few leaves have all been full-sized, so it's doing fine. When it blooms, it's not my favourite type of Phalaenopsis. It's one of the what I call patchy ones, whereas you've got like a white background with blotches. And the blotches are purpley red. So I mean, some people find those types very attractive. I'm not so keen, but nonetheless, when it does bloom, the blooms last a hell of a long time, and because of how it grows and how it has to have the rock and everything like that, when it comes into bloom, it comes and lives next to me on my computer workstation, because the leaves hang down lower than the bottom of the pot, so it has to be raised up, and the way I do it out here is that it hangs off the edge of the shelf. So I push it as far back as I can until those leaves touch. That's that one. And then is this one Hannah's? No, this is Phalaenopsis K. And it doesn't matter how many times I stick a stake in and try and hold this thing upright, it still bends over. We'll try again. Trying to hold it upright, it's growing roots, but it insists on leaning, and it's never going to do very well if I leave it at that angle. So I'm trying to get it to grow upright. This is very limp. This doesn't hydrate very well, despite having reasonable roots. So I'm just checking for bugs, as I do. And I mean, it's, you know, the latest leaf, full size. Latest 3 leaves, in fact, are all full size. This one, new leaf, is growing on nicely, but it needs to progress its root system, which it is trying down here. You can see it is growing new roots, but it needs to get those established in that media with the plant upright. Oh, I just spotted a mealybug on the stem. Bye bye. Yes, it needs to get a better root system, and it needs to establish that root system in an upright position, and then eventually the roots will hold it upright. But at the moment I'm having to use that stake just to hold it upright, and it just keeps wobbling. But the roots are growing, there's active root tips down there, so I'm working on it. I'm working on it. Right, that's the top shelf done. I don't make a record of it, but what I do with these is one time when I water them, I start on the bottom shelf on the left hand side, and then the next time I water them, I'll start on the bottom shelf on the right hand side, and then the same, like now, I started on the left of the top shelf. Yeah? So I'm starting in a different place, and the reason is that as I water, there is a build-up in the strength of this, because, like I say, the bark dries quite quickly and it leaves some salts in the pot. So when they get watered, whether that's a feed or a flush is irrelevant, it will wash out, redissolve some of those salts and wash them out. So this gradually builds up in strength as I water. And then when I finish watering these, the water that's left will get quite a lot of water added to it, and I'm going to go and water my cotyledons with it. Because, as I said again in another video, they need to be watered a lot more often than they have been. They're drying out too much. So today is their day. And then tomorrow I shall be watering all the rest of the orchids out there, so that I haven't got any mucking about with large watering runs to do over the weekend when I'm out all day, well not all day Saturday, but a fair bit of Saturday, for the Orchid Society meeting. Now this is the multi-crown one. When this was bought, it had a terminal spike. So it had 3 spikes, 3 flower spikes, and one of them came out of the centre of the plant. Normally that is the doom of a Phalaenopsis. All you can hope for is that it produces side growths, in other words some new crowns, which this one has done. Now this is the strong one here. It's growing like a normal plant now. It's about to produce its first, oh no, the second or third self-contained root. And then over this side of the plant is another crown. Yeah? So that's 2. And then this makes 3. Yeah? So this is now a multi-stemmed Phalaenopsis. It's also a bit unusual because if you look very carefully, it's variegated. Got a very, very, very pale yellow edge to the leaves, or extremely pale green I would call it. Shows up best on that one, I think, down there. Yeah? So most people said I should have sent it back because it had the terminal spike. And I'd have got a replacement. Without any question, I'd have got a replacement immediately. On the grounds that I know the guy who runs the Double H nursery, and in addition to that, if you phoned up and actually said one of those mini phals you sent in the last batch has a terminal spike, the fact that I knew the expression and knew what that actually meant, I'd have got a replacement because I knew what I was talking about. Rather than a wind-up. But it was decided, or I decided, I overrode viewers' comments, and I actually said it would be interesting to keep it, to see how it grows. Well, as you can see, it's now got 3 crowns. So potentially that's 3 places, 3 plants where spikes can come from. Whereas before there was only 1. Now this is the one that's not mine, this is Hannah's. It's Phalaenopsis Happy Hour. A happy hour, but not a happy plant. I just can't get this to grow nicely. The latest leaf is okay, but you know, it's only got 2 leaves backing it up. It does have some roots. It's, you know, it's actually got, you know, it's got a smashing new root there. So it's got roots, but not many. But then there's not much of a plant. This one just doesn't seem to want to grow, and what I think it is that this came from a nursery at the last time we ever went to Malvern. So it was when the International Orchid Show was held at the Malvern Showground, and it was in the hall rather than in a marquee like it always used to be. And it was somebody I'd never heard of, a nursery I'd never heard of, and they had some very nice Phalaenopsis, but I think the nursery kept their Phalaenopsis in true Phalaenopsis conditions, so they were grown at, you know, like 28 degrees, dropping down to about 21, 22 at night, and a proper 14-hour functional light year round. And to take a plant out of that environment, you know, and then bring it into a normal house, it's going to suffer, especially if it had lived in that environment for 4 or 5 years, or maybe even longer. It's going to suffer, and it has, and it's very, very slow to recover. Well, this is another Double H mini. We've got 1 mealybug down in the crack there. I won't be able to get my finger down in there. I don't like to damage leaves deliberately to get at a bug. If I can get at them and squish them without. Now this is a lovely healthy plant. This is what a mini phal should look like. It's got 5 leaves, including the latest one, which is pushing on. This last leaf was bigger than anything before, yeah, and it's got a lovely root system, and it's producing more roots at the top, going straight down into the pot like that. That's what we like to see. Not sticking out the side of the pot like that one. I could try bending that in. In fact, if I put that behind the label, it might actually decide to go downwards. But yes, that is a nice healthy mini phal. We should get a nice spike on that come autumn time. Most of the ones that I've got here are winter bloomers basically, so they come into spike when the temperatures start to drop down. But yeah, this is a nice plant, endearingly known as Phalaenopsis M. Right, 1 more to go. I've had this one a while, no idea or anything. It's Phalaenopsis L, and this is what I was on about. This has an extensive root system, half of which is outside the pot, but it also has a very extensive root system inside the pot. I'm happy with that. This plant would survive if I cut all the external roots off, because it's got such a good root system in the pot. Otherwise, you leave the external roots on. They can take moisture out of the air. Even if your humidity is not that high, they'll be able to extract some moisture from the air. So there's a new leaf in there with a couple of juvenile bugs on, which if we get them now, but I have to go careful with new leaves because they can split very easily. You put your finger down the middle to get at a bug and they split into two parts. But yeah, this is a reasonably healthy plant as well. It's just growing another new root. Be nice if that went in the pot, not outside of it. But as I say, it's got a good root system in the pot as well as lots of roots outside the pot. And what I do with this is I tip it over sideways and pour as much water on those external roots until I get fed up and watch them change colour, which they do. Now this is another one of these that I try to explain. You know, it says in the books and the ancient scrolls, and you'll see it on many YouTube videos as well, and you'll even hear it on some of mine, is that Phalaenopsis roots, when they're wet, they turn green. That needs updating, that expression. They change colour is what it needs to be, because these go dark silver. They never ever go green, but they do change colour. So they go from pale silver to dark silver, and that happens with quite a few. And then you will get some, but it doesn't matter how wet they get, they don't change colour at all. And that applies to quite a few of the roots in the pot. Come back tomorrow and these will have gone green. Yeah? But the external ones, the aerial roots, just go a dark silver colour on that one. So those are they. As I say, they live on the kitchen windowsill. They get very bright. It's a north facing window. They get bright, good light, and they get extra heat in bursts in the kitchen at all the wrong times. Especially in the winter time when I come out and cook a meal, their temperature can rise 4 or 5 degrees after dark. Totally at the wrong time. But it's tough. This is where they live. It's too cold in the grow room to keep them out there in the winter. They would love it out there at the moment. You know, 28, 29 degrees and 80-90% humidity. They would love that. But I'm not carrying them all out there. Plus I'd have to find somewhere for them. And then have to worry about what happens when the heat wave's over and the night temperatures start dropping down again, because they drop down a lot lower in there than they do out here. So yeah, those are the Phalaenopsis. I don't plan on getting any more. It would be highly unlikely, although I am aware that one of the ones I've lost was a nice yellow one, and it was a yellow one with a slightly darker yellow lip with a white bit on. I don't like the yellow ones that have got a gaudy lip like red or orange, or even deep pink. Not with yellow, it doesn't work for me. My mind doesn't like those combinations. Now this was a nice yellow one, medium-sized blooms, with a darker yellow lip with a white centre. So the fact that I lost that one, the crown rotted basically, that's not me getting water in it. Don't get my plants wet. I know it looked like I did there, but I only watered round the plant. I watered the top of the pot and perhaps some external roots. But yeah, the fact that I'm down a yellow one, when I go to Burnham's, not this Saturday, next Saturday with Hannah for their orchid festival, I need to come back with at least one new orchid to show you good people, and if I can't find anything I fancy, I will see if they've got a nice yellow Phalaenopsis to replace the one I lost, because it was a nice one. We shall see. Anyway, for those of you that requested this has been requested by several viewers. Can we have a look at your Phalaenopsis? So we've done that, so I can tick that one off my requested videos list. And we look at them very rarely, because certainly through the growing season they don't do much apart from survive. You know, they grow some new leaves and push out some new roots. That's what they do, but the change isn't obvious. The next time I probably give a good look over them will be when we start seeing some spikes. which won't be yet. So that's going to be September into October, I suspect. As I said, it needs the night temperatures to start dropping down. Who knows, this heat wave may still be going then, who knows. Anyway, I haven't got a clue. Today is today is Thursday. I've still got this cough on and off, but nowhere near as bad as it was. And I've spoken to several other people that came away from the NEC with a sore throat and a cough. I think I've tied it down. I think it was dirty aircon units that hadn't been used for a while. Because certainly where the Wessex display was, alongside it we had our table and some chairs to sit at. When I got there, Lynn and Sue were sat in the chairs, Alan was stood chatting, and I joined in. A bit later, than the other side of the aisle, in between the two stands opposite, was an aircon unit that was ticking over quite nicely, thank you very much. At some point later in the morning, it kicked on full blast. We got covered in muck. I'm not kidding you, there was a layer of bits on the chairs and on the table. It was in our hair. So that aircon unit was filthy. And if you got a dirty aircon unit and the filters and this, that and the other, you get bacteria. Yeah? And that got blasted out all over anybody that was near them. And another person I know quite well from the Scottish Orchid Society, because it was hot on a Saturday, he was stood in front of one cooling off. He went home, you know, got a sore throat and cough as well. So when I get to the Burnham's Orchid Fair next Saturday, Devon Orchid Society will be there, so will Cornwall, so will Bournemouth, I believe, and possibly South West Orchid Society, all of which were at the NEC. And I'm going to ask round just how many people came home with sore throats and a cough. Not that we'll ever be there again, but you know. Yes, and in addition, another nice to have, I hope, I can't guarantee it, the lady who is one of the main people from the Devon Orchid Society, is also high up in the orchid world as such, and has an element of organisation within the orchid world. She said, when I saw her on the Thursday when I was there, she said either that night or the following night they were going over to the new venue in the evening to look it over and talk about how next year's event would be. We may be able to get some info on that next Saturday, because the lady will be there, and if she can find some time, and if the information is available publicly, if you know what I mean, because sometimes things going on like that are not for the public eyes, it's for the organisation, because decisions are still being made, if you see what I mean. So it's not made public, but we'll have a chat and see if we can find out what the venue's like and how much of a big deal it's going to be, because the NEC is a big deal. Most of the orchid societies that go there don't like it. There's too many hoops to jump through, too many regulations, too many rules, too many... It's all a big deal. Every bit of it is a big deal. Nothing's easy. I mean, my trip there was easy. I bought my discounted Orchid Society ticket online. Lynn gave me the link. I went straight in and bought that. So got a heavily discounted. I mean, if you pay on the day, it's 38 quid to get in. I forget what I paid, £12.50. The car parking, if you book in advance, you get a bit of a discount. So I did that. Got me, and they use all number plate recognition. So basically, you don't need to print your ticket. I did, because I'm old school. I want a bit of paper saying, look, I've paid. But anyway, it's number plate recognition. So as you leave, a little camera checks you in as you go through the barrier. You know, you see the little green light come on and go off again. And then as you leave, you know, it checks against your payment and everything and lets you out if you've paid. Otherwise, man comes out and, you know, demands money with menaces and all that. So yeah, my day out wasn't that expensive as far as getting in and, you know, discounted ticket and everything. But because next year it'll have nothing to do with the NEC, it's a private country estate that we're going to, all the pricing and everything like that is going to have nothing to do with the NEC. So we don't know how much things are going to cost. We don't know how much it will be for the public to get in. And even though this sounds daft, I don't even know if it's the whole of Gardeners World Live that's moving or if it's just the International Orchid Show that's moving. I assume it's the whole event, but I don't know. But that I will definitely find out. If it's just the International Orchid Show, then obviously there won't be the sort of audience that Gardeners World Live get. We won't have anywhere near that number. So parking will be easier and, you know, everything else will be much more laid back, one would think. I will see what I can find out. We'll have a dig round and see who knows what and who's willing to actually find out. Or give it up. Right, so that'll do for this one, and I'll see you. I don't know when I'm going to post this. It's Thursday today. I've already got a video for today. And I've already got one for tomorrow, so this will probably get posted on Saturday while I'm out for the day, or most of the day, so that there'll be a video pre-recorded, albeit, and then Sunday will just be the normal Sunday chat, back to normal on Sunday. Right, so thanks for dropping by and everything. As I said, this was a requested video. Can we have a closer look at the Phalaenopsis? Tick, done that, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by.